In the heart of Alberta, or known by city folk as Stettler, is a man with a dream that involves a lot of grit, long nights, and beaver felt, where the fur is soft, the steam is hot, and the hospitality is next to none, is where you can find the man named Jace, owner of JWT Hats.
JWT Hats is bringing back authentic Western hat making to its roots. With all of his years on the rodeo circuit and on the range, Jace is a steward of the Western way. He understands the needs and wants of any cowboy and the job his or her hat has to endure.
Using the finest materials, Jace can craft a hat to meet any cowboy or cowgirl's liking, including any shape, size, or color. Each hat is custom made to cater any person's noggin, big or small. And don't think you're too far away from his little shop. JWT Custom Hats will ship anywhere in North America. His hat can be found far and wide, including his Instagram and TikTok.
So come on down to Stettler or give Jace a ring at 403-740-3574. Remember, folks, if you look good, you feel good. Go on, Mason.
And we are rolling. Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Hicks from the Sticks podcast, coming to you straight from old Alberta. We're down here in the bunkhouse. We also got Massimo here with us, but he doesn't have a mic right now.
Yeah, Massimo's just hanging out.
Yeah, he's just hanging out. We just went and got some sushi.
Yeah.
We just went and got some sushi. This is episode number 96. Also, just speaking of which, I had a beer there while we were getting sushi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I should do that anymore. I feel like sushi and beer is not the right combination.
Do you know what was a good combination?
Sake.
Was
it a good combination though?
It was good. It was like a weird sake is like a vodka and tequila put together with syrup in it or something.
It tasted like a watered down tequila that had maybe a half of a sugar cube in it.
Yeah. Only half, not a full one.
Yeah.
You chopped it up.
Yeah.
Well, I would have it again. But the girl was like, all right. I was like, the only alcoholic stuff they had there was beer and the sake. And
is that how you say it? Sake?
Sake?
Like hacky sake? I think it's sake.
I thought it was sake.
Sake.
I don't know.
Yeah, also the waitress there at Mr. Bowl and Sushi. You're pretty cute.
I hope she listens to this.
She definitely won't.
Anyways, so no, but she was like, yeah, you can have this. And then I was like, okay. So we're looking at it. You get like a little bottle that's like a size of a Pepsi, and it's like $16 and it's like 16%.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
but that stuff was flavored.
So
that probably would have been even a little
there's
better.
A house sake. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I hate tequila. It wasn't terrible, but I hate tequila. So
but then
the fact that it tasted kind of like tequila, it did a little bit. I don't know if anybody could hear that. No, it tasted like I thought it tasted like watered down tequila, and I don't like tequila. So, but the flavored stuff, that could probably slap.
What I was trying to get at was, apparently they have it hot or cold.
Yeah.
So I had it cold because I was playing it safe, I think, in my opinion. But I wonder what it's like hot.
It would be interesting.
It would be. It would
because they do what they do too. If nobody's ever had sake at a sushi restaurant before, is they bring it out in like a little jug, and then you get like those little Japanese traditional cups that are like pretty much a shot glass, a glorified shot glass.
Glorified shot glass.
Pretty much that's what it is. So it kind of I could see if it comes out hot, it's like sipping a tea, almost,
an alcoholic tea.
Yeah. But now, since the weather's kind of getting warmer right now, it's like I don't really want to have a hot drink during the day.
That's still like -5 outside, but it's fun.
It's warming up, folks. It's warming up.
Spring's coming. Speaking of spring,
but actually, no. Before you get into that, I was gonna. Should we go there? Because we're planning on getting pretty wild this Thursday, right? Should we go there and not get any food, but just get a bunch of sake and just get super sake drunk?
I wonder what that'd be like. Is that like a tequila drunk? But it's not
fun getting drunk on sake. I don't know.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. We never know till we try.
Start speaking a different language. Who knows?
Yeah, speaking in tones. So, what I was saying was, it's springtime.
Yes.
So
Okay, what? It's springtime.
It's springtime, and with spring in Alberta becomes manure spreading, right?
Mm.
You start spraying manure, which leads into our later interview after the Western Wear of the Week is with Matt from the Manure Mafia down in Nebraska. So stay tuned for that.
Yep, really good interview.
We've been really bad at highlighting our interview at the beginning. So,
yeah, stay tuned for that interview. It was really good chatting with Matt.
but first, Western Wear of the Week.
Yeah, everybody's favorite segment, especially Milo's. He's being very nice actually today.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not. All right. What is a fence crawler?
A crow? A bird?
Nope.
A groper?
No.
I don't know. What is it?
I thought you would have been able to figure this one out, Deb.
I had another one, but I'm not going to say it.
An animal which cannot be kept in a fenced pasture.
Okay. Okay.
Fence crawler. All right. So maybe you got the crazy one that keeps on somehow getting out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fence crawler.
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
the one that you're gonna go and turn into ground beef, ship off to McDonald's. It's a pain in the ass.
Yep. Of course. Yep.
Yes,
Yes.
precisely.
Yes. Very much precisely.
Make a lot of McDoubles.
Oh yeah. Is that our only Western Wear of the Week this week?
Do you want another one?
Sure. Why not?
All right, this one should be really easy. Rig.
Chuck?
Oh,
Caravan.
this is the Wild West, Deb. You think they were ripping it out in F-150s?
Yeah, of course. It's an F-150.
Okay, yeah, whatever. In 1880, yeah, sure they had F-150s. No, come on, you should be able to figure out rig.
Is it Chuck Leggin?
No,
An oil rig?
no.
I don't know.
Has to do with riding a horse.
Saddle?
There you go. Money, money.
I guess so. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When we had Joe Cooney on, he was always talking about rigs.
Who was?
Joe Cooney.
Oh,
Cooney
yeah,
Sound.
yeah, yeah.
He was always
Yeah.
saying rigs.
That's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes sense. If you haven't listened to the episode, go back a couple, about 5 or 6. Go listen to that. Sorry about that. All right. Should you hop in the interview real quick?
Yeah, we could hop in and then we could
Give
talk about some other shit after.
give everyone the odd news.
We
of
could
the
talk
world.
about some other shit after we talk about this shit.
Yeah.
Haha, manure.
Keep shit talking after shit talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, let's get the interview.
Yeah.
Have you done a podcast before? I think I saw when I was doing research on you. I think I saw you did one with Egg with Emma. No.
Ag with Emma, yeah, I did. I did the Manure Spreader podcast. I did one with Farm for Profit. It was I might have been on the Farm for Fun side of that one when we were hosting a golf tournament, a charity golf tournament. They were here for that, so every now and then I get the privilege to talk shit.
Yeah.
Talk shit.
And I guess we're the first Canadian one. So I guess we may not
You
be
are.
the first podcast you talk to, but at least we're the first Canadians. So
Yes, this is exactly. That's why I was all excited. Like, all right, Canada, let's work. Yeah, let's do this. We're
Let's rock and roll.
we're going global.
yeah. Anyways, so yeah, welcome to the Hicks from the Sticks podcast, y'all. For everyone that's listening, we're in the studio, I guess, here in Olds, Alberta.
And we're gonna do some shit talk.
Some shit talk.
Yep,
Yeah.
my guy.
Yeah. So today we have Matt from Manure Mafia. So Matt, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick, who you are, where you're from and stuff?
Yeah, Matt with Manure Mafia we at Central Nebraska started this. I don't know what's it been 6-7 years ago now that we actually started up the Manure Mafia. Came to be where it was some consulting services that we were offering so for several of the large feed facilities, and it got to the point where, as you all know, there's certain restrictions that you have that are put in place by the government. And in order to adhere to that anymore, the feedlots could no longer apply manure on their own ground. It became too saturated, so that's where we started to come into play. Was we needed to build a market and create other locations to go, and then actually get to the point to where you could deliver it and apply it at some of these other some of this other crop ground that was outside of what was owned by the feedlot. So that's what's always been interesting to me is the restrictions get more relaxed, which I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but the restrictions get more relaxed as long as the manure is applied away from feedlot or feed facility owned ground. You go away from there, you're okay to apply a large amount, larger than what you could if it was owned by the feed facility. So.
Gotcha. Awesome. That's a great introduction.
Yeah.
So right before we get into the actual shit talk, I guess you could call it, what's the closest, like when people ask what town you're from, what town is that?
I've come, my brother and I are the ones that created Manure Mafia, and we both grew up in a little town called Ord. So it's, we always say that the running joke was our parents raised us there because we only had 3 letters to remember. It was just ORD. So and basically you could look at, and crazy enough, as I had a Ford, it was like an early 80s Ford that somebody thrown a snowball at the tailgate. And at that time they had kind of the letters that were attached to it, and it actually knocked the F off, so it made it easier for me to remember where I was from when just look at the back of my pickup. So, but yeah, a little town called Ord, Nebraska. So yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty good.
Is there any like kind of local legends, or maybe not legends, or kind of some like
Celebrities?
well, not celebrities, like some secret spots around there that you guys would hit up when you're younger?
secret
Or even
spots. Yeah,
still
we
now?
did. You mean like as far as where you would rendezvous in order to maybe have a cocktail or two when you were maybe underage? Yeah, there was a few of those around the areas. We usually call them minimum maintenance roads, where we tended to end up at. And or yeah, it was usually a minimum maintenance road. Go as far back into the sticks, which is perfect for this podcast. Go as far back in the sticks as you could, and basically get to a point to where you kind of disappeared into the country, and that's where you were going to have your little siesta, not siesta. It'd be your little party.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's where you're drinking the beers. That's for sure.
It was, yeah, it was good. It was just one of those we needed to stay hydrated.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
thirsty.
Mhm.
Well, we're even my U.S. geography is terrible. Where is Nebraska in the state?
So you got Canada to the north, and then you come down into North Dakota, South Dakota, then you hit Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
North
So-
Dakota is below Saskatchewan, I think.
Yeah. So
So-
yeah, I think you're above Montana, aren't you? So you got
So you're like right in the middle.
yeah, we're like right in the middle. That's I always say, like Orta is kind of the pivot point of the U.S. It's just like where the shit all happens. So literally
Fair
now.
Fair enough. All right, got a couple more random here questions. So, here's the first one. This is a social media question I've seen a few times. What's the beef between Nebraska and Iowa corn? Can you you're the first Midwest guest. What's the beef between that? Like, I've seen it a few times, and I'm just thinking in my head, like, this is corn, and we don't have beef between Saskatchewan about their canola. So
yeah, no, I think it's just one of those. It's just kind of like neighbors. It's one of those where like you always have some sort of disagreement with your neighbors. And it's just one of those. They happen to be the closest ones, and they're always touting their corn. And it is one of those where they do have ground that doesn't need to be irrigated, and a lot of them will plant their crops and then just basically go to the lake then for like the next several months and then come back and harvest their crop. Whereas here you're maintaining it, you're planting it, you're irrigating it, you're cultivating it. We're in sand, whereas they're actually in soil. So it's one of those kind of just back and forth where you got your next door neighbor that you just kind of have a love-hate relationship with.
Fair enough.
Which
For
I've
any of the
actually
people
got
that
some great. It's through social media. I've made some great friendships with Iowa, and even today I still give them shit about stuff. But it's just one of those where they post something, and then I come flying in there with some asshole remark about Iowa. So,
Well, you got to, right?
oh yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah,
It started,
yeah.
and it's almost one of those. It's kind of like where you kind of smack around your brother or something like that, and if you don't do it someday, they're just kind of like going through withdrawal. They're like, "Boy, I kind of poked fun at you. Aren't you going to smack me?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, here it comes." So,
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I understand that part.
yeah. So it is. And it's one of those kind of fun things. And it's, they're usually nice guys. And it's kind of one of those, I think it stemmed from the Nebraska side where we're just like, oh, they're like, oh, we got good yields and stuff. And we're like, yeah, eat a dick. So.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
good.
good.
Yeah.
And I guess as we continue on with the geography side of things, like I said, you're our first Midwest guest. What's kind of the agriculture like around there? What are maybe a couple of the main crops? Is there a lot of beef production, milk production? Like, what's it looking like around there?
Yes, a lot of beef production. So last I checked, we were, I think, second to Texas as far as beef production in the United States. So we do have, and it is the terrain is set up very well for either large feed facilities or open land graze or open grass grazing. So it kind of bodes well for us to the point to where there's a need for our services, actually, just because of a lot of the byproduct that's created from all this cattle production. So there are some large feed facilities throughout the state, and there's a number of them. So where we're at, we're kind of in an area where there's several large facilities. So I'd say within about maybe 100-mile radius of us, there's I'd say probably easily you could count probably over 200,000 head of cattle.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Does that mean also too a lot of kill plants in the area as well that cause a skunky type smell?
No, we haven't really run into that situation too much. I mean, you're talking about kill plants. Yeah, we actually have one right in our backyard where we've got one that I think a lot of the places deliver to. There's one here, and then there's also one to the west of me about, that one's probably about 60 to 80 miles west of me. So yeah, I'm kind of, again, situated right in the middle of that. Well, actually, there's two of them to the west of me. So yeah, we've got a few.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Awesome. Oh wait, where was it going?
I guess one question I have before we kind of get into like a lot of the custom work stuff is I want to ask you what your favorite way of saying manure is, because there's so many different ways that you can say it, right? Like shit's obviously the classic, but you can go with caca, or like what's another good one?
Manure.
Guano.
Guano. I lean on shit pretty. That's kind of my go-to. That's my clutch. That's my usual. Poo was always one that kind of turned me off. I was like, don't call it poo. And that was part of one of the initiations of Manure Mafia and the TikTok trend was when there was that sound that kept going, we're slinging poo. That kept going around, and I was just like, nope, we're going to drown this thing out. I just do not like that association with manure and poo. So then I'm like, here we come with all these freaking videos. We're just going to drown that out, never use that one, and just kind of deter everybody from using that one. So every now and then it pops up, and I get tagged in it or something like that, or I get a hashtag in it. I'm like, no, we're quit using poo. We're shit, or just So.
Yeah. Don't make it weird. Give it the right. Say it properly, right?
Don't soft sell it. That's right. Don't soft sell it. We're not going to go to the grade school with this. We're going to go right at you with it's just hardcore shit.
Well, and even like growing up, the neighbors had a dairy farm, and even the daughters of the farmer there, right from when they were like 4 or 5 years old, it was the shit pit, like, it's like that's even what they called it. So.
Oh, it is. It's just so much cleaner.
It sounds funny coming out of, a 5-year-old's mouth. But.
It is, and it's one of those, where I've seen even some of our merchandise you go around, and I think I was at a track meet or something like that, and I ran across at least one kid that was wearing that Miles and Miles and Steaming Piles hoodie, and I was like, oh, yep, that's ours. So then I've had some of those, where it's got shit or something on it, and they're like, oh yeah, my kid wears that to school. I'm like, well, all right, I guess if it's making it past the front doors, it's okay. But, like, geez, oh my God, I didn't think about that one. So
hey, that's not your problem.
No, exactly. I haven't gotten any calls from any principals or anything like that yet. So I'm like, all right, man, I guess it's they're letting them wander around the school and it's okay.
Yeah. You know, that's a good segue into, let's start talking about some shit here. So do you want to kind of explain your guys', so you start explaining your custom business a bit. Do you want to explain a bit of the history behind it? Is it a family business? Who all is involved and stuff?
Yeah, so it was my brother and I that started Manure Mafia, and it was actually one of those where his whole he's got one of those where at times I tell him he's been in the pickup or he's been in the cab of some piece of equipment too long, because he has these creative ideas where it's like the miles and miles of steaming piles, or it's the big ball and shit hauling. You know, he'll come up with something like that, and so we got to talking one day, and this was kind of in the initial stages of we were starting to have the equipment and provide the service, and he was saying, you know, I've always kind of wanted to put these slogans on these shirts and things like that, and what would we call it or whatever, and how would we go about this, and is it even anything that anybody would want? So of course, me and I've got probably more of the marketing and the commercial, the advertising background, and the sales side of things. So I was like, oh yeah, let's do this. We'll put this out there. So it actually ended up, we got to a situation one time where here's how the name came to be. Was I was working in an area, and I had I think he was either an agronomist or a seed salesman at that time, probably both. But anyways, he'd had a customer that was needing manure, and so he was told to call me. He called me up, and I gave him a price. And here's what it's going to cost for the manure, the trucking, the spreading, and here's when we could get it done. So he said, okay. Hung up the phone. I waited. It was probably about 15 minutes, and he called back and he said, "You are the fucking Manure Mafia." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I've tried to call like 4 or 5 other places to try to get around you, and they all just keep saying I have to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, all right, well, I guess that works. So he's like, all right, I guess go take care of this customer. So, but I was like, but I told my brother, I said, well, here not too long ago, I got called the Manure Mafia, and he's like, perfect, that's it, that's what we're going with.
So in your region, you're like the Godfather, eh? You're the mob boss.
At times, yeah, and then other times it's one of those like I'm just like the target. So it's like, okay, let's just see how much we can jab or lowball this guy. I'm like, yeah. So it's been an entertaining adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Before you guys started like the custom spreading the Manure Mafia, did you guys have a family farm to begin with, or no?
We had one many, many moons ago that it was out in the sand hills of, we call it, so you got the sand hills that you go basically west of here. I think it was the third or fourth generation family farm at that time, and so it was a cow calf operation out on the kind of grassy plains out in that area, which it was one of those where, you know, I'd love to have like today's generation try to go out there, because every time we would go and work on the farm, you know, everything is always basically by like that clump of grass is where you need to head to and try not to get lost. So it's one of those, you're out in the middle of nowhere and just no trees, no nothing. So, but you'd have to go find cattle out in that area. So it didn't survive the 80s. We got into the situation in the 80s where interest rates skyrocketed, and at that point then it was just too tough for some farms to survive. So that was when the whole operation got sold off, and that was the end of it as far as the depth of our actual owning a farm. So that was when it ended on that side.
Mm-hmm. So what were you doing anything in ag or just in general before you guys started spreading manure, or were you 18 out of high school started spreading manure type of thing?
No, not out of high school. Yeah, so all throughout high school, then we worked for different family farms in the area. So there was several of them that we were employees of. So we'd help those operations out. And actually, the closest one that I did quite a bit of work on was actually a large pig facility. So yeah, we've always grown up around some sort of manure, or either we raised our own or worked around some of that somebody else had. My brother was on the other side where he was working for a large cattle feeder. He had a feedlot, and he was doing a lot of the farming and different operational work around there for him prior to us going to college. So and then when I went off to college, then I studied agronomy and tied it in with business. So that's where I furthered my education at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. Was I studied what was called agribusiness at that time. So it was basically agronomy tied with economics to a certain extent.
Okay.
That's sweet.
How many years was that program?
That program, it took me, I was on the 5-year program. So it was one of those I probably should have been under 4, but I enjoyed college way too much. So.
All right.
And
Side tangent here. What's
Yes.
the college game day experience like in Nebraska? Because
Yeah,
I heard your guys' team's like half decent. So,
well, in the past it had been. When I was there, it was fun. We enjoyed it. Now in the present time, we like to say it's rebuilding. So it's just constantly one of those where about every 3-4 years we're going through a rebuilding, and that's where we're at right now. We got a brand new coach. Now the game day atmosphere is pretty tough to compete with, because you come down there and you got a lot of tailgating that goes on prior to the game. Pretty much everybody's best friend. Plenty of cocktails and appetizers and a variety of different things that are going on. The stadium holds a little over 90,000 people, and it's got the longest sellout streak in the nation right now. So there's over 220, 230 sold out games. So it's pretty impressive. Yeah, a lot of red.
Wow. Do you still go?
We do. My brother and I, we have season tickets. So we've been in the south end zone. We got 4 tickets about halfway up in the south end zone, and we've been going since I think we were in about the mid to late 80s is when we started going.
Oh geez, yeah. I've seen some like videos online, and it just looks like it gets super rowdy, and it just looks like a ton of fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. We've had a blast going to those games. We just keep telling ourselves every year, this is the year that we're going to go for a national championship, because we kind of lived in those in the 90s where we couldn't lose, and then now we're into this situation where we've been on like our 27th coach or something since then. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Rebuilding.
Yeah. I guess another side tangent, is hockey big in Nebraska?
It's not. It really is not. So it's one of those where there's a few, I would say maybe half a dozen teams, if there's that many that are in the state. Most of them are on the east end of the state.
Okay. All right. So we'll scratch half. We'll scratch like half the questions here.
Yeah. What do you think of Connor McDavid's season so far?
But yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're gonna be like one of those where I'm gonna be like, can we talk about shit again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, where would the closest NHL team even be to you guys?
Minnesota.
Would it be Minnesota?
Well, Denver. Yeah, you got the Avalanche in Denver. Maybe Minnesota. I'm trying to think outside of that where else there might be one. I don't think there's anything
Columbus?
in Iowa. In Ohio, yeah, it might be. Well, Ohio would be a long haul. You're talking 13 hours from us to get to Ohio. I'd probably be in Canada in 13 hours.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, might as well just go watch a Jets game at that point.
Yeah.
That's right, exactly.
Just
Yeah,
going to Winnipeg,
you're
yeah.
on the coast now, so.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, awesome. A bit more about the custom spreading now, I guess. So, do you guys only do solid manure spreading, or you guys also do liquid as well?
We're solid only. So we looked into the liquid, and the concern we had at that time was the small window of opportunity to apply it. So it's based on the ground conditions and the freezing temps post harvest. You were going to be looking at a small chance there of trying to get that knifed in, versus with the solid, you really aren't restricted by the ground conditions. So that's why we stayed away from it. We came pretty close. We looked at the equipment and at the possibilities. We were trying to go back and forth between, did we have the right tractors and the right personnel to do it? So then we actually just vetoed it and said, "Nah, let's just stay all solid and not have to worry about the time."
Mhm. Okay, so I gotta, if you can answer it, just a couple of questions about the liquid in Nebraska. Can you not just like spread on? Do you have to knife it in? Like, is there regulatory that's not the
No.
right word. Regulations behind it?
No, you can surface apply liquid also. So yeah, you'll have those big tankers that they'll just go around and surface apply it.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
no, that's not a concern. So it was one of those. Yeah, the equipment we were looking at, because we were looking at buying out an individual, was all going to be to where it was going to be knifed in. Yeah, so we would have had to go track down the surface applied, and just didn't really put that much effort into it.
Hmm. And with I'm assuming since you mostly have feedlots around, is there really the market for it in your area?
Not really, in my opinion, just because of so much solid being available. I mean, in the last year, it was so dry that it really you didn't have a product. It was glued to the ground, and you didn't have a way of getting it up. Now, then when the moisture came in, that's when we had a lot of product. But um, with that much being in the area, yeah, I don't think there's the competition would be pretty strong for a solid versus a liquid.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And then you were just talking about equipment here. What type of equipment like does your operation kind of run? I noticed you guys run quad track. Like when I was looking researching you guys over the past week, I noticed that you guys run quad tracks with quite big ship boxes on the back.
Yeah,
Like some of
yeah,
the
we
biggest
do.
I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, those are all. We've been running JBS 50-ton spreaders. Those are low riders, or what they're called. It's their body style, and pulled behind cased quad tracks, 580 quad tracks. Now this year, what we've done is ventured out from that and tried out a Fendt tractor, and actually pulling a Meyer manufacturing spreader. That the fun thing is that they're the kind of, I'm probably breaking some rules here, but we were actually one of two commercial applicators that's running this Meyer spreader. That there's another one down in Texas, and this is a prototype. So there's us and another commercial application company down in Texas that are demoing these, or I guess testing out these spreaders. So we put it behind that Fendt and ran it this year, and it's actually worked pretty well.
Oh, right on. Well, hey, as long as you didn't have to sign a NDA, you should
Yeah,
be
I was about to
okay.
ask, like, is this
I
like
know.
top secret or
Yep. I think since it's been performing well, so it's one of those where I think and we've put it to the test. That's why. So I told them, they came back here not too long ago to kind of run some tests on it, some diagnostics to see how it was, And when they brought it in, it was all nice and shiny and looked really good. And we unloaded it off the detach, off the low boy, and got it all set up and hooked up and ready to roll. And that was back in October or November, I think, was when that was delivered. And then they came back through here about a week or two ago, and that's why I was kind of giving the heads up, like, all right, now just so you know, it's not going to look the same. There's going to be some scratches, and there's always some pieces missing, and it's just like shit black on the side of it, and you can kind of see where we tried to wash some of it off, but it looks more like some sort of tribal tattoo on the side of it now, to where it's just basically swirls and stuff all over the thing. Like, yeah, it's gonna take some scrubbing. I keep saying at some point I'm gonna find like a cheerleader car wash or some sort of charity and roll in with these things and be like, all right, here's $50, have at it, and get them cleaned up. So
Yeah. So what you're saying is it had a lot of character by the time you were done with it.
it was, yeah, it really was. It was very artistic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and so I guess maybe you can only talked about this to a certain extent. Did it match up with the JBS spreaders or no?
It did, yes. So it was one of those that we were very pleased with the performance of it, and there's even some of the additional details to it that they're going to modify to on the next one, just to see if it helps it out even that much more. So it's going to be a different suspension, some bigger motors on the back as far as what's running the beaters, and then there was going to be one other thing I think they were going to change around, and we were going to try that out and see how that goes. But as far as chewing through the material, we really had, I mean, we threw some challenges at it, and it didn't really shy away from it. So it was one of those things where, and it does have a nice feature that I've been pretty impressed with. It's actually got it's like a dual clutch that it has in the back, to where on the PTO, because the PTO runs the beaters, and so at a certain extent, rather than that, over torquing that PTO shaft and just ripping those PTO shafts apart, what it does is it's got a clutch to where if there's a bind on those beaters, it'll actually disengage it, and the PTO shaft can keep running, but it's not running those beaters in the back until you bring the PTO to a stop and start it back up again. So that's saved PTO shafts. We haven't gone through one yet on that one.
That's actually a great idea.
That's really smart.
Now I think about my like spreading solid manure experience is quite minimal, but from what I remember of it, that would actually be like very useful, because even if you get like somehow get a large ass rock stuck in your beaters, or you get a bunch of twine or something caught up on the bottom of it, like that could save you a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. It's an additional safety feature, I think, too, with that PTO shaft, where that's running right behind the cab of the tractor, to where you don't have any, I wouldn't say any, but you have less concern of that thing coming apart on you. So it's nice.
So this clutch is right at the front of the box then?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Sick.
Right on.
The fent. Are you running like one of those 2-track fents, or are you running like a double dual?
Nope, this is double dual. Yeah, so it's dualed up on the front and the back, and it's all row crop set up. We've got one that I need to call the guy back on, that it would be like super singles on it. That's a bigger version. It's the 10 series. And it's one of those I'm still getting acclimated with the verbiage and the understanding of fence, just because this is the first season we've worked with them. But from those that we've talked to, the super singles tend to work better for like what we do versus the dualed up ones. Now the one we ran this year was all duals, and it performed well. It handled the conditions really well. It seems to pair, I mean, from my experience, it seems to pair really, really well with the manure spreader.
Gotcha.
Yep. As far as setting up your hydraulics and your brakes, it was something that, and actually like the return to pile speed, and actually the transfer speed of it, of running down the road, was pretty handy. And you can get those things going 30, 35 miles an hour down the road and cover quite a bit of ground pretty quickly.
Awesome.
So it's like you run case and fent, I guess, now, and like, is that pretty common for the area? Or is there a lot of green running around as well?
Yeah, a lot of deer. Yeah, you got a lot of green running around the area. And as far as putting them in front of manure spreaders, I've seen a few guys that have done that. And a lot of times they're running the big articulated tractors, the big deers. And we've even had one or two that we've looked at. There was a quad here not too long ago that they were talking to me about, and then I threw up when I saw the price on it and moved on to something else. So it was like, oh man,
I feel like that is an appropriate response.
it was like, of course they always put the price at the very bottom, and you're scrolling and you see that and you're like, that, well, that's not bad for two, and then you're like, nope, that's one. Well, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have a hypothetical here. All right.
Okay, all right.
I'm thinking you got to switch it up completely and start using the big buds.
I know. I've said that for the longest time, that I'd love to be like the first ones to put a big bud in front of this, and just be so cool. And
right.
I don't know on these new ones that they have a PTO on them or not, or if you can put one on them. But that's why I know that was kind of one of the deterrents on some of the classics. But I would love to have at least an opportunity for one of them to be in front of one of these spreaders.
Yeah, it might be a little overkill. Although, aren't they making some new ones that are a little smaller now?
I thought the new one's going to be one of the biggest tractors on the market. Possibly,
never mind.
Something like that. When I was reading, it was up to 750 horse or something like that. So,
yeah, I think it was going to be a massive, and we had a spot that would have been perfect for it too. We were clear out along. It was towards the west end of the state. We were spreading like right along the interstate. I mean, it was one of those where you're talking maybe 200 yards away from the interstate. So it'd have been fun to hear the screeching, as people going down the road, and you're running a big bud down along the side of the interstate, and they're like, "Is that what I think it is?" Yeah, it's a little overkill, we know. So.
Yeah, might be a little
Mm.
obnoxious, but that's okay. That's good, right?
Yeah, it could. You could have a spreader and then like a ripper right behind it. I mean, just have all of that going through at one shot. So, like,
Yeah.
geez, yeah, and not even phase it.
Mhm. I had a question with the super singles. Is that like an actual super single? Or are you talking like one of those? It's an LSW. I don't know the number. I don't know. Do you watch Cold the Corn Star?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Do you
Yeah. So
know
you're
like his
talking,
340? He has that wide.
Yeah.
Is that type of super single that you'd be going for?
That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, as far as putting it on that tractor, that Fendt tractor. Yes. So you got plenty of grip. You could probably still put it on a low boy if you wanted to, and you're not going to be mowing down mailboxes as you're heading down the road.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. The Oxbow.
Yes.
What's that? That's like an old cat type floater type of thing. Is that the same concept behind that, or?
Yeah, so that Oxbow, that was just basically, it's like all the old big A's where they had them set up where it's a 3-tired self-propelled spreader, and that thing was impressive. It was a pretty cool piece of equipment. It really shines, in my opinion, when we ran it, and we ran it again like that. We ran it through a challenge, and as far as what all we could spread with it, that sucker really shines. You put some litter in it, or you put some lime in it, and it will just sing. It's all hydraulic. It's very user friendly. So it'll turn on a dime. I mean, it's one of those where you can sit there and turn that thing in circles. So
That's sick. Were you ever scared though on some side hills? Like, you ride your old back in the, I guess even when we were still younger, you had the trikes, right? So, if you get to a weird side hill, you might like tip a bit. Were you ever scared on like a side hill? You were just going to go onto one side?
Yes. Yeah. So it was one of those where I tend to like put somebody else in there when it comes to that. I'd be like, you run it, because that guy don't like that. So yeah, it was. I ran it most of the time when we were on flat ground. So we took it clear down into southwest Kansas, and there was a job down in there where we were helping clean up a feedlot and spread quite a bit of manure, and it was all cattle. And it worked that thing over, because what it has is it has horizontal beaters versus like the JBS and the Meyer are all vertical beaters. So this one has horizontal beaters with a spinner deck at the bottom. So the horizontal beaters would just basically chew all this manure up and throw it against the back wall of that Oxbow, basically like a big door back there, and then it all dropped down onto those spinners and put it out, which it was like a very fine spread. It pulverized it. When you were running a 20-ton spread of cattle manure behind it, you could feel it. It was working it. Now you get into chicken litter or lime, I mean, you could run that sucker through the field 15, 20 mile an hour, and it would just move. But then, yeah, you get into a side hill, because it's the same thing. It's all GPS driven. So you get into a side hill or something, you're not paying attention to it, and it's following that line, and all of a sudden, it's leaning pretty good, and you're like, wait a minute, this is making me nervous. So.
Yeah. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's about the time. Yeah,
Type
about the
of
time
thing.
you
That's
get out
awesome.
and you want to trade places with the loader guy. Like, hey, you want to run it for a while? Like, sure.
Yeah. You want to take a turn?
Yeah.
My old guy's like, hell yeah, and then
Oh yeah, my turn. Yeah. And then he sees the line where it's at, and it's all like down and then through the canyons and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you're fine.
You got this.
Yeah, good luck. Call the insurance agent real quick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is now, because you were talking about it before, maybe to the non-cattle guys, what's the difference between a horizontal beater spreader and a vertical beater spreader? Just like benefits, pros, cons, maybe.
Yeah. So what we found is, other than that, the Oxbow, it took it to a different extent, to where it was throwing it against that wall with a horizontal beater. Yeah. So it was pushing it against the wall and then dropping down on the spinner decks. Now, most of these with these large JBS or Meyer manufacturing spreaders, they're vertical beaters, which actually has proven to be a better distribution of the manure. So it's based on the pattern of the knives and the beaters. it actually will distribute the manure more evenly versus like a traditional horizontal beater spreader. So the horizontal beater spreader just kind of, in my opinion, just kind of throws it out in the air. This one, it's kind of where they're almost kind of crossing between each other, almost like one of those turnstiles as you're going on to like a subway or something like that, to where they're passing between each other and chewing through that manure, and then spreading it out in a pattern to where it's not just going straight up in the air. It's actually going about 30 feet out behind the spreader,
Mm-hmm.
which is typically the pattern, the width of the spread pattern we run is about 30 feet.
Okay, yeah.
Gotcha.
So most people are using vertical then, eh?
Most are using vertical. Yeah, the traditional ones, I'd say some of the smaller ones are your horizontal ones. You get into like some truck spreaders and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The ones we run, and most of what I'm seeing anymore is the vertical.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Awesome. And speaking of spreading, is there any technologies behind it, like variable rate? Because before we started recording, you were talking about how you have to be careful. Like, you're not just spreading shit to spread shit. Like, if there's actual, like, there's a bit more agronomy behind it, I guess, in a sense now, where you're actually looking at your different nutrient levels and you're like, okay, this needs this needs that. Is there variable spreading with that as well, technology and mapping?
There is, yeah. So anymore now, we've created a relationship or built a relationship with several agronomists in the area to where they will go in and build a shape file that consists of the basically the demographics of the field based on the soil conditions and the fertilizer content and everything from the sampling that they've done, and then they'll build that spread pattern or that spread rate for us. So we just did one maybe about 2 weeks ago where we had a variable rate spread on. It was about, I think we ended up a little over 8,000 tons is what we ended up spreading. Anywhere most of the time, the guys that we work with have a pretty good understanding that when you got 50 tons in a spreader, you can, it just won't keep up. But I tend to ask them not to have it jump around very much to where you go from like a 5-ton spread to a 20-ton spread and then back down to a 10-ton. It just, the floor, when you're trying to move that much weight around, it just doesn't speed up as fast as you want it to. So yeah, it's getting to be more and more common to where the guys that really I guess pay attention to their fertilizer program, they're wanting to create these files so that they are applying in the areas in the amounts that they really need.
Gotcha. Awesome. I had a question and I'm trying to find it here and I lost it. So we're gonna go this one. The worst stuck story that you guys have had.
The worst stuck story? Oh, we had one. So yeah, so we had one several years ago. There was what they called like a cyclone bomb that went through here. It was just a major weather pattern came through to where it was almost like a plains hurricane. It came through and just unloaded a lot of water, and it was a situation to where there was a lot of relief issued by the state because of all the amount of water that was flowing through all these areas. There was just flood conditions that happened, and we happened to be out spreading the field about the time that thing hit. So we ended up at that time. We had we were done. It was one that we were running two, but we had one. So it was a tractor and a spreader that was stuck. The loader was stuck. Oh, and the pickup and the fuel trailer, they were all stuck in this field, and it basically just, the ground almost just kind of like just absorbed them. So all that equipment at the time when it was running. So the pickup wasn't, but it was just far enough into where like you couldn't get that thing out. So we ended up having to go rent a neighbor's excavator and drag this equipment out of there, because it was one of those where, God bless tracks, but as soon as you get them to a point to where they're slipping, they're not going anywhere, especially with that much weight. So it was a situation, to where we're dragging this equipment out, getting it all out, and then by the time it did get to the road, the county basically just came behind us and just kind of put cones around the road where we'd gone through it, because it was just to the axles, drag this stuff out down the gravel road, and it was just deep tracks, probably about shin high, going down the middle of the road. It was just unbelievable, the amount of moisture that hit, and the way it just softened the ground so much that it just ate that equipment.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's this one song from this one Canadian artist, Corb Lund, and the premise of the song pretty much is that like him and his buddies go into this field when it's all muddy out and they're ripping around, and then they keep on getting stuck, so then they have to keep on calling more friends, and then the friends keep on getting stuck while they're trying to pull them out, and it just turns into a big shit show. It kind of sounds like what you were just talking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh well, you're stuck, call another friend.
It is. Yeah, you always get everybody that drives by. You're like, wow, that looks bad. You want to help us? I'm like, no, you guys, you're on your own. Good luck. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
it
pass.
is. It's got some entertaining ones. There's been a few stories that have come that we've created, I guess, when doing these different fields. It's been quite an adventure so far.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sure. All right, I got my question back. Milo, stop fighting me. I got my question back. So we were talking, like I said before, we were talking a bit before we started actually recording, and there's a big difference between where you guys are in Canada, as you guys can actually spread on snow, which is a big no-no up here in Canada. Do you want to explain why you guys can spread on snow for all the Canadian listeners?
Yeah, and I have. It's the northern states of the United States, and then also into Canada. What I've found is that the restrictions on snow are tied to the amount of surface water that exists in those areas. They don't want the runoff, so anything that's applied on top of snow then ultimately is going to melt and head towards the lakes. So that's one of the big no-nos in that area. Is they just don't want that material being in your surface water. Now versus here, we are mostly sand, especially out in the part of the state where we're at right now and where a lot of the feedlots are. So what our biggest concern is groundwater. Everything is below the surface, or the majority of it is below the surface. So I've even been told certain situations to where this underwater or underground reservoir that we have, it almost spans the entire state. It's just a huge amount of water. So here we have to go through compliance and testing. Most of it's soil sampling in order to make sure that there's no leaching going on, that the manure and the nitrogen and the phosphorus is not being pulled down into the groundwater. So that's soil sampling that's been done every year. Now, a lot of that is concentrated around where there are feedlots or feed facilities. So they do extensive testing in those areas, because they're also doing liquid application that's coming out of the holding ponds, and then they're also, if the soil will allow for it, then they'll also doing a solid application on some of those crop grounds. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Random question about Nebraska, because you guys said you had irrigation. Are you guys
Yes.
pulling out of ground wells then for your irrigation, or out of canals?
Nope, most of it comes out of the ground.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah. Yep.
That is,
exactly. So it ties back to our Iowa friends, where they're always, the jab that goes back and forth is when one of them comes through the state or whatever, they'll be like, you guys have these things out there like on tires and they're silver or whatever, and they're kind of roaming around out in your fields. What is that? And you're like, yeah, you can go eat shit, because that's irrigation, and they don't have to do that. So they just, they just put it in the ground, and they're like actually dewatering. They're like, oh man, we got so much water, we're Iowa, we just don't know what to do with all this and everything. Get 300 bushel acre, and you guys get what, like 225, 250 maybe, while working your asses off. So, So my friends are going to be tapped into this one. I'm like, you son of a. First
and
round
meanwhile, everyone up in Lethbridge that has pivots is like, you guys can do it out, because out up in Lethbridge it's all canal system, all up in there. So then they're probably like, shit, we can't even do corn.
Mm-hmm. There's some in the area that do. There's some canals that pass through the area that they'll do that, and I always hear them with their frustrations, usually about grass or something like that that's getting through their screens and getting into the water and plugging up the pivots. So that's always a nice little challenge. But a lot of them, especially get out this way, it's coming up straight out of the ground.
Mhm.
I would definitely think too. One thing is if you're working with canal, then you have to work with the irrigation committee, and then you got to order water and the ground well sounds so much nicer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like you get into this area where I live now, and which I'm like just about 60 miles north of my hometown. My brother's still there with the operation and everything there, and so then I go up there, and most of the time we just sit around and drink beer and bitch about everything else. So, but so it's better sometimes when we're separated because that's it. We're trying to cure cancer with about 18 beers in each of us. So,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
yeah. 18
it's,
beers, and you're figuring out ways to expand the business, maybe start a new
yeah,
business. Yeah.
we need helicopters. We got to do this by
Yeah.
helicopter. Like, no,
Yeah.
we don't.
Do you guys have a rule where you make sure you like lock your credit cards in like a vault or something, or get somebody to hide them somewhere when you're drinking, just to
Yeah.
just to play it safe?
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny because yeah, some of the guys that work, some of the other team members that are operators. It's funny because it's like almost like they egg it on. We'll be sitting there having a serious conversation about the operation or something like that, and then pretty soon you'll see them come in and they're kind of like sneak in there like they're part of some secret operative, and they're just starting to set full beer cans down in front of us, and then just kind of step back and watch as we were cracking them, and like just not even paying attention. And then pretty soon you start counting. You're like, oh, this is where we start
Uh-oh.
kind of going off script and figuring out other things. So, like, so
And the wife's called you probably like 3 or 4 times, and you got it picked up.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, those two dipshits are gonna have something going on. Like, keep them away from like welding torches and all kinds of shit. And like, no, this will work. You just cut this whole side off. And like, oh, geez. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Hey,
it's
I'm
safer
sure there's
for
probably a
everyone.
lot of good ideas that come up though.
Oh hell yeah, that's my brother's always got some of them going on. Some of them are probably not PC; they're not politically correct, so we won't talk about those. Well, yeah, but
Well, those are typically the best ones though.
those are the big money makers. I'm like, how could we not make money off of this? Be tough to market.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Awesome.
yeah.
Before we get into the last couple questions here, do you have any sticky note questions?
Yeah, one thing that maybe we touched on it and I just wasn't really listening, but like, do you get you get the manure from the feedlots then, or where do you guys get your manure from?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So then how does that work? Do they just do they just have like a certain rate or that that you have to pay, or
it's
they
like,
just like, hey, take it, like we don't want it?
Mhm. It depends. Yeah, it really the simple answer is it depends. So there are some that, depending on the ration they feed and the way they clean, they'll produce a very potent manure. So it comes off, and they do. I've had several of them where they'll have put a lot of time and money and energy into creating a good product. So they've got a certain style of cleaning that they do to where there's they keep a lot of the dirt out of it and a lot of the other products that really, concrete or things like that, they do a better job, I guess, of maintaining their facility and creating a nice stockpile and drying it down and creating a very usable, very marketable product. And so those that have something like that, and where you can tie it back to a value similar to what like commercial fertilizers going for, then you'll actually have some sort of a agreement with them to where you'll have a revenue share of some sort that goes back to them, or you'll buy that manure from them and
Mhm.
then deliver it to the customers that you've created over time. So and then there's some to where, or also weather conditions, all of a sudden you get something that comes in, like that cyclone bomb. I mean, at one time when we were in there was one facility where I think I had probably get 4 or 5 different trucking companies in this same facility. We were just hauling it out of there as fast as we could, and it was just so saturated. It was like lava. It was just trying to migrate out of the feedlot and head towards every county ditch and everything like that. So we're trying to just get it cleaned up and get it out of there and get it to pivot corners and things like that. So certain situations where Mother Nature comes in and kind of changes your business model, then you kind of have to adapt to where it's there's probably not going to be anything that the feedlot's going to make off of it. You're just going to try to get it out of there in order to try to not hinder the weight gain of the animals.
Yeah.
And then yeah, years like this where all of a sudden you've got it was kind of the perfect storm where you had very dry conditions here to where the product that what you could get once you got it scraped up and removed from the pins, it was very dry. You weren't transporting a whole lot of moisture, so it was basically like a straight fertilizer that you were going to be applying. You didn't have a whole lot of extra in there with it, so it was. And then with the rising costs of commercial fertilizer, there was a market that was created for it. There was a demand, so it was, like I said, the perfect storm because you had less of this good product because there wasn't a lot of water weight to it. It was dry and it was more of a challenge, I guess, to get scraped up and removed out of the facilities, paired with high commercial fertilizer prices.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah.
And I guess the one other question I had is, do you get a lot of people who bitch to you about the smell?
No, never. No, everybody's always like, yeah, if you could just park that in my front lawn, that'd be awesome. So I've had a couple of situations, yeah, where it's either been like in you rolling down the road with and it always happens at the worst possible time. I was rolling through a construction zone and, I had everything. We have the side dumps all tarped up and everything like that. And I was actually driving this semi and rolling through a construction zone, and right about the time or the location where the guy with the stop slow sign was, there was cloud that came off and just missed him and landed right there next to him. You're like, I bet he's loving me right now. So I had a little poopery that dropped off right there at his feet. So we had a situation here a couple of years ago where it was just one of those where, I probably overthought the situation because I thought, well, all right, we're going to pile everything on the south side of this house because it's winter. Most of the time your winds are going to come out of the north, so it shouldn't be an issue. And we got into a time there, and it might have even been like late December, early January, where we got some really warm winds that were coming in out of the south, and it was just hammering that pile and just blowing it right to the back of that house and just cooking the back of that house with all that smell. And I was getting calls daily like, can you come spread this, please? Because it's just like 24 hours of that pile coming in the house. I'm like, I'll be right there.
Yeah. We'll help you out.
Yeah.
You will get that out of there. Like,
you should have just told him to grow up.
Yeah, I have. I've done that. I've also offered a service. Usually they're around Christmas. They're like anybody that's got a neighbor or something like that, or just a friend of me that they are just not happy with for a certain dollar amount, we'll roll up and then just spackle the front of their house if they give us a name and an address. I've got a few of my own.
I feel like that could be your side business.
Yeah. If we could pair it with like window repair, it would probably go well.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if there's like legality issues here, but
yeah.
You're the mafia, so what do you care about the law?
That's it, exactly. Yeah, you're at that point, like we're just gonna do it. So, not that we've ever done that yet. On purpose.
That's right.
Been a couple of pickups or loaders or things like that we've actually spackled. You're like, yeah, that was too close. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got a pickup that ends up looking like a Dalmatian out there. And you're like, that's gonna leave a stain.
Yeah. So custom work obviously is like a big part of agriculture. I think it's a lot bigger than what people think.
Yep.
And not a lot of people know about it. So like, what's like the hardest part of doing custom work? In your opinion, is it building the clientele, the marketing, the life balance? What is it?
Most of the time, I'd have to say it's the weather. It's like even this year, it seemed like you get into a time to where you're just rolling along and everything's going smooth. Maybe the ground conditions are holding up really well. And I actually had a field where I was doing a lot of the work on it to where everything was just lining up right. The trucks all, we had it all set up. Everything was frozen. Then all of a sudden we just got like a 2-3 day spell there where the temperature climbed up, it got warm. Trucks start sinking that we're trying to deliver. So like, all right, we got the last few deliveries in there. It's fine. I'll even run at night and try to avoid some of these conditions. The temperature's going to drop, and I end up getting a tractor stuck in there. I think 3 times I had to get pulled out in the same field. It was just one of those where you're like, if you could just somehow, some way convince Mother Nature just to behave for those months and just let you go, that'd be great. But it's not even the snow. It's usually just the temperatures. That's the biggest challenge. If we can just get either dry or frozen ground, then you can just go. But most of our downtime is usually that. And then it's a situation where you have a grower or customer that's saying, well, why aren't you running? And be like, well, drive out in there and see what happens. Because I bet your pickup's going to just sink. Yeah. And then we got 200,000 pounds, there's no way it's going to stay on top of that ground. So
Has your brother's 18 beers deep figured out yet how to solve this problem yet, or no?
He's trying to work on like a hover method.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yep. I've told, in my sarcastic tone, I've said before, like a wish. It's one of those with that never seems to go over well. They were like, we could just wish it out there and see how that goes. But it's at some point we're going to have.
It could happen.
It might, yeah. But otherwise, for the most part, we're probably going to have to drive, and it ain't going to agree with that weight.
This is when the helicopter comes into play.
Oh yeah,
helicopter, exactly. Yeah, if you could we did. I think we got into a certain point there, and this is no lie. And I don't know if we got into 18 beers or not, but we were looking at drones. Like, okay, if you could have a drone with a manure application, you could really, corner the market here. But on a 20-ton spread on a drone, I don't know how you do that. It'd be one of those like an invasion. You'd have all the neighbors just so concerned because there'd be like 500 drones out there trying to do a 20-ton spread on this quarter ground. So back to the drawing board on that one.
Start looking like the Amazon headquarters.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, what's going on? We're being invaded. Like, no, we're trying to do a manure spread with drones. It sounded real good last night, but it's not working today. So.
Like, damn, first it was weather balloons, now it's drones.
Yeah, freaking Manure Mafia guys and all their drones. So.
The mafia's coming. Yeah. Drones coming by.
Yeah, like this is what you get. Again, it looked good on the whiteboard last night, but it's not working.
Yeah. And then, so we talked about the hardest part, but what's the most enjoyable part about doing custom work?
The most enjoyable part, the part I really love, is actually coming back afterwards to see the crop. Basically, it's been entertaining to a certain extent as far as when you do a custom application like that, and then you have a crop that comes in that next year afterwards, and you'll see maybe where there was a miss. There was a situation we had here a couple years ago where the customer's pivot broke and we couldn't get it moved. And of course, then during the summer it moved, and he was saying, why is that yellow strip right down the middle? I mean, everything else is green, but that spot right down the middle. So that's where your pivot was broke. We couldn't spread it. So everything else looked great, but we couldn't get close enough under where that pivot sat. So that's fun to come back and do that. But as far as like anything actually during the time, it's one of those usually high stress. It's usually trying to stay out of each other's way. I always say it's like a Shriners convention at times where you're trying to coordinate tractors and spreaders and guys going out there and loaders and different things like that, and making sure that nobody hurts each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Fair enough.
Well, and how many guys do you have on your crew?
Usually what we're running is 2 guys in spreaders and then the guy on the loader. A lot of times what tends to work well on the ground that we're working on. We don't have, like, at one time I went and looked at like North Dakota where it's just like wide open, wild west up there. It's just, so we don't have that. We still have a lot of fence lines and everything divided off, and so we don't have that wide open space. So to get a couple of quad tracks and a couple of 50-ton spreaders in there, you can start them at certain points on the field and pretty well run across it in a day and a half and get 3,000 tons out there in a matter of about 10, 12 hours.
Gotcha. Awesome. Mm-hmm. All right. Any last questions before I ask the last shit talk question? Kind of.
No.
All right. What does the future look like for your guys' operation? Including, is like the Big Bud actually in the plans, or is that just like a maybe?
Big Bud, yeah, especially if they're listening to this, we would love to demo one. We'd love to go ahead and hook one up. I always say I want to go into. I won't stop until I'm spreading manure on the moon. So that's usually my goal. So it's one of those where I'd love to see how much further we can go with it. We've been in Kansas, we've spread in Nebraska. We haven't hit South Dakota yet. We were almost out to the Colorado, Wyoming area. We were pretty close. So I've bid jobs in North Dakota and looked at it. So it's one of those I kind of want to just almost run from like North Dakota to Texas would be fun.
Yeah.
And maybe once in Alberta, just for shits and gigs, right?
Yep, just to come up and say hi. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring the parade. That's how I always say. Everybody sits there and watches the parade go through. Like, what in the hell?
I mean, like, we got 150 acres up here. We got a buddy that 150 acres you can probably spread on. He's probably only got like maybe 10 tons, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, I love those calls where like, oh yeah, my wife's horses got a big pile out there. It's like about the size of the loader bucket. Like, it's just not probably worth us driving 100 miles to come get that. But it's if we're in the area, yeah, we'll come tackle that. It kind of got to be that way too in North Dakota, where I was up there talking to some of the guys up there on basically bringing our process and protocol up into that area and creating a market. And it was one of those kind of like, well, I don't know, got like 100 ton here or, maybe 80 ton there. And I'm like, these are 50 ton each. So you put, it's like 50 ton, we need like 100,000 tons to be ideal. So if we could find that pile, then yeah, we'll head up here and then it'll be perfect.
Yeah, gotcha. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. So we got a couple, just moving on here. We got a couple social media type questions we were talking about earlier. You talked about how you guys kind of got into it. Why though a bull for your logo?
The bull for the logo, we looked at a couple of different things, and that was one of those at the first time when we were creating it was, I said, probably a cow or something along those lines. And the individual that was creating the logo, she was like, well, I got a couple of these different things here that we can kind of piece them together and kind of see what had happened. So it ended up being to where the bulls kind of seemed to mirror what we were shooting for, where it was kind of a strong logo to it, a strong image to it. And then I even had it to where I think at one time you had like a sucker suit and a hat on and a cane and something like that. You were kind of pimping him out. And so it was one of those situations like that where like, okay, I think we had 3 or 4 of them we were looking at. And the one we ended up deciding on seemed to kind of match our personalities the most and kind of what our image was going to be. It was like, you got these big massive machines that are coming through that they're just kind of just going to run through or just kind of bowl their way through and do their job. So it's just kind of a big massive head down going to plow through type situation. So it seemed to pair well with us and what we were doing. So I didn't realize that it was going to be somewhat recognizable like it is. It just seemed to kind of take off and kind of take on its own personality over time. So it was something that I didn't expect to see as well received as it has been.
Mm-hmm. When you're making up mock-ups, did you have one with like the old Italian mob boss with like the cigarette and the fedora and stuff?
It does, yeah. Yep, I do. I've got one around there like that. It's basically, it is all like mafia'd up. It looks like a mob boss, yeah. So it was one of those, we're kind of going back and forth on that one. Like, could, but it kind of pigeonholes us into just being that. And so, yeah, when you had that one sitting next to the one we decided on, this one looked a little more cleaner and a little more crisper.
Plus, you ain't telling the kids to smoke a cigarette either, right?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
No, that's it. We're not promoting
stay in
that.
school.
Yeah, unless Marble wants to endorse us, then yeah, have at it, kids. So
yeah. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm assuming, like, because your social media is quite large now and has quite the presence on like Instagram and TikTok, and I've seen like obviously that comes with different opportunities. And I saw that you guys were able to hang around with the Busch Light combine. I think I saw a post.
Yep.
Were you able to drive it, or did you just drink beer beside it?
just drink beer beside it. That's one of those where I think for the most part, they just kind of wash it and wax it. And I don't know if they actually use it. It's one of those, of course, it's Iowa again, to where they can basically just have 300 bushel corn, and it just kind of harvests itself, and then just kind of jumps in the bin. So we don't have that luxury here. Yeah, so we don't have the pretty Bush Light combines.
Okay, gotcha.
You know,
Yeah.
though, that it strikes the conversation, and when you and your brother are having your next little,
Shindig.
brainstorming
Yeah, brainstorming.
session, you got to wrap all of your equipment.
We've
Like, get a
Some
brand
sort of
deal, like-
design, yeah.
Like, what about like a do you want pill? You probably don't know what Pilsner is. It's a bad example, but like a Budweiser, the red Budweiser, just wrap it all in red Budweiser.
Yep, we've told a couple of places, and it's one of those where I even messed up on a endorsement deal to where my little pea brain. I had one of the beer distributors or beer breweries, large breweries, reached out to me one time on one of the TikToks that I created and said, "Oh, hey, can we use that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that's not a problem. I appreciate it." And they're like, "Do you want anything for them?" I'm like, "No, I have that. I just go for it." And then hung up the phone. And then I thought, man, I am not smart. I just gave away a video, and I didn't even get like a case of beer out of the deal. So I'm like, yeah, not good. But so yeah, now we've come back to, if you want to endorse us, then yeah, we'll wrap that sucker with whatever you want. Now, it's beginning of the season, it's going to look a certain way, and the end of the season, it's going to
Yep,
look a
that
certain
is
way.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go jabbing that decal enough times with a loader, it's probably going to look a little tattered by the time.
Yeah.
That's why they're 1-year deals. You always got to flip them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Bush Light wants to come in and make this thing, wrap this up with whatever, then have at it. But it'll look great in the first couple of videos, and then after that, you're probably going to have missing letters and logos and things like that. They're going to start to fade away or disappear, or probably get spread somewhere in the middle of the field. So, not my choice. Yeah.
It's going to go from Bush Light to Bud Light real quick.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. What happened? Well, we hooked it, and it went through the beaters, and now it's just B. There's no more.
Yeah.
The rest of
That's awesome.
in a field.
Yeah, so I saw like you guys do like a lot of cinematic work too, I found. And I think one of the tools I noticed you guys use is a drone. How many times have you crashed that thing or ran? And also one shot, have you ever tried to run it through the beaters? I know it sounds really dumb, but is it possible?
Oh, I've debated it several times. Yeah. So it's one of those where I've debated it as far as running it through those beaters, both while operating and not. And I've been deterred from doing that. Now, I've parked that thing in a tree a time or two, and it's still going. I had to replace the beater or the blades, I think once or twice on it, and then the camera, whatever it's called, that thing didn't survive a round or two. I can't remember what I ran that into, but for the most part, we've done a pretty good job of keeping it off of objects that it wasn't supposed to fly into.
You get some pretty sweet shots with those drones, eh?
It does. It turns out pretty good. It's so crisp and so clear. And there's even some, I've been looking at some of the newer technology as far as what's been created out there, and just how more advanced and user friendly it is, and it's tempting, But of course, you can spend a lot of money on a drone. But it's one of those where I would be the mental midget that would get a $10,000 drone and fly it between the beaters while they're running, and then it's just shredded. It's part of the field now.
Yeah.
Maybe for that one shot you just get like a really cheap one, or like
one of the little ones from like Walmart that's $100.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Just for everybody to say, like, were those beaters running? Like, oh yeah, we ran right through that sucker.
We thread the needle.
Not a problem. It handled it well.
Yeah. Awesome. Have you noticed like a large actual impact with social media and like the business side? Like, did you notice like the numbers went up once you started doing social media and started going big, or is the social media kind of something that's aside from the actual business?
The recognition improved. It was one of those where, for me, it softened the sale. It's one of those where you didn't have to really go through a detailed explanation of who you were. And it was also a reference point to where you could say, somebody that maybe hadn't used manure in the past, you could say, okay, go to manuremafia.com and check out some of the videos or something like that, or go to TikTok and see what we do if they were just completely unfamiliar with what the whole process was and what it looked like. Because sometimes it's tough to explain to somebody that's never actually seen a manure application of this size. So. But then it was one of those too where like now with either existing customers or feed facilities or something like that, I think for me it helps soften the sale. We tend to go through probably more hats, but that's okay. That's neither here nor there. But it's one of those where it's like, yeah, have at it. You might want a hat. I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll get you a hat.
Yeah.
That's it. Speaking of TikTok, have they banned that down there yet or no?
Not yet, no. As far as I know, the rumor keeps running around that it's going to be gone here before too long.
Yeah, this is like the third time that those rumors have circulated, so they probably ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, at times I've thought, great, have at it, just one less thing to deal with. But then if it's something like that to where I actually have a little bit of a desire for it to go away, it'll never go away. So it's one of those like, yeah, I could do without that, and that'll be the one thing that lasts for this company forever. Yeah, like
that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that for the longest time. If I said shit long enough, that our account would probably get banned or something. It's like, no, they're like, oh yeah, have at it, boys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of, like you're saying that, do you get a lot of flack? Because the point of your guys' content is also be kind of sarcastic. Do you guys ever get flack for being sarcastic or swearing or whatever on it?
No.
Or are you guys, those people are just like, you know what, this is just the Manure Mafia. This is what they do type of thing?
I think earlier on it was, and I even had several like the larger creators that would be like, I didn't think you were an actual account. I thought that was a joke to a certain extent when I'd see Manure Mafia like in my videos or making comments or something like that until I started showing my face and things like that, and some of them, and then it actually came to be that it was, we're an actual company. So then it kind of took off, and earlier on we started getting more people. You get a few of them that are like, oh, my grandpa did it this way or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, we don't care. But so it's stuff like that would start out. Now it's almost one of those where I think anymore somebody like, and I've told people before, it's like T-ball. I said, you put that thing on a tee, you put that stupid comment on a tee like that, I'm gonna just crack it out of the park. So if you go ahead and do that for me, then yeah, I'm probably gonna come in and make that comment on your page. But because I'm like, oh, that's for me.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. If it's out there, might as well go smack it, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, I've kind of trolled around to a certain extent to it, and tend to pipe up on anybody that says, oh, we got a shit show going on here. I'm like, yeah, you rang. I'm like, all right, here we are, and that's really solidified the shit show that you got going on your page.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys do all your own editing and filming and stuff?
Yep, we do. Yep, it is.
How has that learning curve been? Because I do it all for us, and it's been just like that, basically.
Oh yeah, and I had some of the guys that came along that have helped out quite a bit. That Ryan Seaman was one of them that they do quite a bit of like liquid manure application along with their farming operation, and he was one of those that like, dude, you got to use CapCut. You got to stop trying to use the app so much and use CapCut, because he's like, you're spending way too much time trying to create some of these things when you could just go and cut and piece and add your music and just slap a bow on it and send it out there. So like, yeah, so then it was one of those like me. I'm always typical like last one to arrive at the party. I'm just like, okay, here we go. And once I started using it, I'm like, yeah, this is a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We both, like, I started using CapCut, even like the computer version, and it's just way nicer than Adobe. It's just so much more user friendly. And it's built for TikTok, so it's like, or Instagram, so it works out pretty nice.
Oh yeah, teeing it up. It's just basically like, so do you want to send this now? I'm like, hell yeah, go ahead, put it out there.
Yeah. Well, what would you say has been your weirdest because you're on TikTok and there's a lot of weirdos on TikTok,
Or even
what's
Instagram,
been like,
too.
yeah, like what's been like your weirdest comment or internet interaction, I guess?
Oh man, there for a while. And I think it was like in Canada. I was there for a while. It was like everybody was like, you know how you'll get lives or something like that sent to you, like, oh, you got to come join this live. So for the longest time, it was I was like the guy to be pulled into like every vegan TikTok live. Like, oh, go get Manure Mafia. He thrives on this shit. So then yeah, I'd get pulled into a vegan live, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is one of those where like let's just see how far we can take this. So that was one of those, and usually in some of those lives like that, you're just scratching your head like, what did you just say? So then it's me and my sarcastic comments just come flooding in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any feet pick requests yet or no?
I haven't had that yet. I'm still open to the opportunity. Depending on the depending on the I don't have the prettiest dog, but it's one of those still where I guess I'll take a snap of them and send them off for a couple bucks. So.
Beer money.
yeah, exactly.
It's the old saying, I ain't gay, but $20 is $20.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We passed that comment around before. My brother even said it one time. He's like, you should do like an OnlyFans account or something like that, and show what? Like, what the hell are we gonna show? Like, you kind of like flexing your glutes or something out there. You're leaned up against the quad track or something. Like, hey, for $20 a month, you can watch me put fuel in this tractor. So.
Yeah, 20
$20
is $20.
Exactly, yeah. I haven't found that market yet, but I guess I probably should pursue it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Mason. Any more questions?
No, I don't get. We can go into our last question.
This is your favorite question.
Yeah, so we ask all of our guests this. It's probably the most important question. What's your favorite beer?
My favorite beer, you guys are gonna label me as an old man beer, but I love Miller Lite.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Miller Lite. That's the. Is that the champagne of beers?
No, that's like Miller High. That's like Miller. I think that's either Miller High Life or that might be like straight Miller. I think is usually what that one was. I go on the light side to keep my girlish figure.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Yes,
yes.
Stay dainty. Yeah.
Well, I know they sell it up here, but I don't think there's a lot of people who drink Miller up here, right?
Well,
no.
We're such an. Do you guys have Pilsner down there? The Bunny Rabbit beer?
No,
they wouldn't.
So it's one of those. It'd be probably like probably more exotic than what we're used to. So you get into this area, basically you're pretty much all Bud Light and Busch Light is like what a lot of the beers are that get consumed in this area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and is there a lot of local breweries around as well?
There are, yeah. So there's actually a friend of mine that I grew up with, and he created his own brewery in our hometown. It's called Scratchtown Brewery, and it's one of those where he's concocted several different brews that have actually been pretty successful. And it's one of those, yeah. When I get into those, you want to talk about some creative thinking, and yeah, I will definitely figure out how to spread shit on the moon after a couple of those beers.
Oh yeah, yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those like the IPAs you get from some of those local breweries are just unreal, right? And it's awesome. It's kind of the same thing up here, where every county or town or whatever, they're all starting to have their own little breweries that pop up here and there. So it's pretty cool actually, and it's super fun to support those because you have a great time supporting them. Right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's created it's like a milk stout beer that it's one of those where I could drink it by the gallon because it's one of those like the milk that goes in, it almost kind of takes some of the bite out of it, and it just makes it just that much more smooth, and it's a darker beer, so it's just easy to consume. I enjoy it. Too much.
Too much.
Is like a milk stout like a paralyzer then, basically?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
It is. Yeah, it's almost like a black and tan. Yeah, so it's delicious.
Yeah, I believe it. Perfect. All right. Well, that was all the questions that we had. Thanks so much for coming on. This has been great. Everybody listening to this, it's Manure Mafia on all the social media accounts that we've kind of discussed already.
We'll give him a follow.
Yeah,
Sure.
go give him a follow. And thanks again for coming on. This has been great.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you again, Matt, for coming on. If you want to see some of his content, because he has some pretty shitty content, if you know what I mean. not as a Matt.
No, that was not the right way to use that.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was funny, but it wasn't. But yeah, if you want to see some more shit content, or that was terrible again. I'm sorry. If you want to see more manure content,
okay,
go follow the Manure Mafia on Instagram and TikTok. Go give them a follow. See what's up in Nebraska.
Down in Nebraska.
So, if y'all were listening at the beginning of this episode, to the intro, you guys know. So we got a sponsor.
New sponsorship alert. Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo.
Yeah. Before we get into that, like we said, past couple episodes, we always like to thank everyone that supported us. So Bar Double Diamond, code Hicks10.
Oh, speaking of which, we didn't get into Band in the Sand yet.
Oh, we did not get that. We'll get into that after a Wild and Wacky World. But again, I'd like to thank everyone that's supporting us, and especially now as Jace at JWT Hats is now our main podcast sponsor. So
that's right.
Thank you to him for all of his support. Be sure to stay tuned for some content on our socials about his stuff, and
go get a hat.
It's good stuff. If you got some, they're pretty nice. You might see him in a few episodes coming up.
That's right.
So yeah. All right.
Okay. Band in the Sand. Okay. So this morning, I'm like in my little home office there. You know,
yeah.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
And anyways, Dev comes walking by, and he's like, "Man, I got the what did you call it? The after bits?"
Yeah.
The after bits. I'm like, after bits? What the hell is that? He's like, "Oh, it's like, you know, when you feel sick after Band in the Sand." I'm like, dude, this was your first time going to Band in the Sand. Like, he acts like this is his 10th time going. It was like, oh yeah, you know, this is a common occurrence. I was like, shut the fuck up, Dev.
I wonder how many people, if it did a statistic, I wonder how many people actually got sick after Band in the Sand.
Like how sick? Like bad sick or good? Or like not good, but
I don't know. Is there a good sick?
Question. I don't know if there's a good sick, but like, I don't know. Well, yeah, I bet you there was a lot of people puking. I mean, Devin was on. Exposed.
No, Band in the Sand, that was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. Everybody that saw us there that sports the pod, it was fun partying with y'all.
It was nice to meet everybody.
It was a good time. I want your feedback though, because this was both our first time being at Band in the Sand.
Mm-hmm.
Always wanted to make it out. This was our first time actually doing it. What was your main thoughts of it?
Main thoughts.
Because not gonna lie, I had pretty high expectations because I always heard about this big event and I heard how much fun it was, and it mostly did fit up to those expectations. But I want to hear your side of the story first, Dad.
My main thoughts. One, they didn't run out of liquor, at least while I was there. I did leave a bit before.
They ran out of spice rum.
They ran out of spice rum?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Dude, you left at like midnight.
No, I left at 1:30. Anyways, so why are you exposing me? Anyways, I really liked it. To be honest, one thing I didn't do was listen to music a lot, so I was just bombing around talking to people. Because there's a lot, like when I went there, I knew a lot of different people that were there. But when I did listen to music was good. It was just fucking packed.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah. So
what's your thoughts?
Okay, so my thoughts were, I thought they did some things really good. You could tell that they've done this a lot before in the past because they had like a free shuttle service, bringing people to the hotels and there for free, which was really cool.
Yeah,
it made a lot of sense doing that too. Like, really smart move on their part. Didn't use it, but yeah, we didn't use it, but it was nice to know that it was there. But and then the next thing too is plenty of porta potties, so you never had to wait. I will admit, like, to get outside, it was a little congested. And yeah, like the point that you said, saying that place was, packed. It was packed. It was packed wall to wall, and kind of shitty
because then you didn't really have much opportunity to
two-step.
dance or two-step. Yeah, like you could go up into the mosh pit pretty
You
much.
could bob
if
your
that's
head
what
a
you
little
wanna
bit.
call
That's
it.
about it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all you could do for that. And then also within that same regards, because we're kind of on the topic of music, I like listening to live music. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but these guys that they had playing there, I didn't really like how they were going about doing it
Okay.
because I felt like, and I wasn't paying attention that closely, I guess, for a good portion of the night, but a lot of the times it sounded like they were trying to play their original music.
Yeah.
It's like, no, what are you doing? Don't do that. You're not that guy. All these guys that were playing, zero fucking clue who they were, right? Like, don't play your original shit. Just go up there and play the most popular covers. Right? Like play
maybe
the
throw
stuff.
an original song in there once or twice.
Yeah, maybe once or twice. And yeah, you can sprinkle that in from time to time. But like the 99% of the people who were probably there had zero clue who those people were. They were just there because it was Band in the Sand.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it was kind of like, all right, just play covers. Like I don't want to hear your shitty music. Sorry, I don't mean to chirp, but like it was just it was a little frustrating sometimes. It was like it's hard to have a good time here when I don't even like know what's going on. Like,
Yeah,
I just want to sing my little heart out, and I don't really have the opportunity to. But other than that, like it was really good. I thought it was put on very well. I didn't see a lot of bullshit go on. Like I didn't really see any fights or
a lot of security there. They had even dogs sniffing you on the way in, type of thing.
Yeah. So no, it was very well put on.
Yeah, I thought so.
Not a lot of complaints, because even those complaints with the music, it's very minor overall. Because I mean, you spend most of the time just shooting the shit with people, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. So
I don't know, I quite enjoyed myself. So.
Yeah, no, it was good.
I thought it was good. So
Yeah.
Band in the Sand.
Also, run it back.
And also
we met Bethany for the first time.
we met we met Bethany for the first time. That was fun. She's fun. So
yeah.
So
no, it was a good time.
All right.
But anyways, all right. Wild and Wacky World.
All right. Some odd news from in the world. All right, I got one. It's actually two articles. All right.
Okay.
But it's the same story, two articles. They did a follow-up article. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Arizona Dairy Queen searching for missing giant red spoon.
Oh, dude, that's sick.
All right.
Like somebody stole it.
Yeah, so the area owners of a Dairy Queen in Phoenix remain perplexed and slightly amused as to why someone would steal a giant red spoon that adorned their restaurant.
Adorned?
Adorned?
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. ADORNED.
What the hell does that even mean? Is that like the big spoon that they use as door handles, or is that like a
this spoon. Spoon. Maybe this sake's getting to me. This spoon was 15 feet tall.
What?
Yeah.
And somebody stole it.
Yeah, their surveillance cameras caught two people appearing to manipulate the screws that held the spoon to a base and then taking off on a small motorbike.
Yeah, you know what though? If you're gonna commit a crime, like that's the right crime to do. You know, something that's very harmless and is just kind of cool. Like imagine if you had the Dairy Queen spoon in your backyard. That'd be cool.
All right,
I want that.
Follow-up article, all right?
Okay.
Guess where they found the spoon?
In somebody's backyard.
They found. It looks like they found the spoon.
Is that a competing Dairy Queen in the area?
No, they found. I don't know. They didn't really say who stole it, but they found the spoon in a ballpark. Do you want to know how they found the spoon?
No.
It says here that Michael Foster, age 52, was playing outdoor mobile game, aka Pokemon Go.
Oh, a 52-year-old was?
Yeah.
That guy needs to get a life. You know what? Actually, he's probably getting outside and getting his steps, so good on him. But,
yeah.
You know.
But yeah, no, they found the spoon, and there's literally a photo here of the police. Maybe we should do better at editing so we can show this photo. But it's literally the police trying to strap the spoon to the top of the
that thing's massive. So the spoon is just as long as a Tahoe, everybody. That's how long this spoon is.
Yeah, and it literally curves perfectly to the top of the police car.
That's gnarly. I want that spoon. Me too. Is there any Dairy Queens up here in Canada that have that spoon in front of them?
I don't know, but if you guys do,
searching.
If someone does, your spoon might be taken.
Yeah.
Not incriminating myself, but it might be taken.
I have some future plans of having a really big bowl of cereal that requires a really big spoon.
Yes.
So you better keep your head on a swivel there, Dairy Queen.
All right.
I'm coming for you. All right. I got one for you here. 5-year-old uses mom's phone to order $4,000 worth of motorcycles and boots.
Motorcycles, like motorcycle boots or just boots?
Motorcycles and boots.
Oh, what type of boots? Is
So these are, and this is in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
I actually said that all right. Actually, from time to time, I'll like practice that word.
It's a tough word.
Massachusetts. Yeah, so she bought $4,000 worth of child-sized motorcycles and cowgirl boots on Amazon. So let me ask you this question, Devin. Oh wait, before you get into that. So the items include 5 child-sized pink dirt bikes, 5 child-sized blue dirt bikes, 10 pairs of women's size 7 cowgirl boots, and a battery-powered child-sized Jeep. All right, the Jeep might be the best purchase.
Yeah,
out of
that's
all
best.
those.
That's a smart purchase.
But if your little girl ever did that someday, how are you gonna punish her?
Man, I don't know.
You gotta discipline her at that point. Like that's
a lot of money.
That's
a lot of boots. Yeah, who's gonna use all those boots?
Are you kidding me? That's a lot of dirt bikes. What does she need 10 dirt bikes for?
Fair enough. I don't know. Like,
what would you do at that point? At first, when I feel like when I first would see that, I would be like so perplexed. And I'd be like, what?
Like, how do you even punish a child for that? You know what I mean?
You're gonna punch your 5-year-old daughter.
No. Punish, not punch.
I thought you said punch.
No.
Punch.
No, I would never do that. That's messed up. Why are you laughing? That's not even funny.
I'm just thinking of you punching a little kid, and it's such a weird visual.
That's fucked up. You think that?
Okay,
Anyway,
how are you doing it? Like, it's got to be something pretty extreme. Like, you can't just. Well, she's 5-year-old. You can't just take her leapfrog away for a week.
got fair point.
There'll be something more than that.
Well, like, is it like you make them pay it back, but it's like an everlasting debt?
No, I don't think that's how you go about it.
I don't know.
What I would think you would do, I'm assuming if you have, especially if it's a daughter, I'm assuming that you're gonna have her enrolled in like gymnastics or something like that.
Oh yeah, no more gymnastics.
Maybe you say, all right,
no
you're
more.
done. All right, you taking away all of your screen time.
Yeah,
and we'll play outside.
Yep. But not on your new dirt bikes or your new battery powered ATV.
What else could you do? I'm trying to think of things that were.
I don't know why. I don't know why we're trying to figure this out because we're nowhere close to having kids. Unless you
sure about that, Dev?
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure that. Are you sure you don't have a kid out there?
Are you sure you don't?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm a safe dude.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know what other things you could do. I don't know what other things a 5-year-old does that you could really punish them with.
Yeah, I know. All right. I got the next headline here. Okay, so do you know Cocaine Bear?
Yeah, I want to watch that movie still.
Okay.
Bad.
What do you think if they were to do a sequel? What animal would you do?
Meth polar bear.
A meth polar bear?
A metho polar bear.
A metho polar bear.
Dude, a metho polar bear would commit mass murder like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah, but they already did Cocaine Bear.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me think. There's already Kangaroo Jack, so there's already a roided out kangaroo, so that's already been done.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what I would do?
What?
A drunk Tony the Tiger.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's he gonna do?
I don't know.
Play sports.
Eat a lot of Frosted Flakes.
He's gonna enter the slow pitch league.
He's gonna
wreck slow pitch league.
Yeah.
So he can just drink there.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to do a sloth on ayahuasca.
All right. Very, very.
It's just gonna sit there. It's already slow shit to begin with. Now it's just not gonna move at all.
Mm-hmm. Just an hour and a half.
It'd be a pretty boring movie.
Yeah, just an hour and a half. It's sitting there.
Or what about? So imagine a cheetah on cocaine.
Man,
do you think it would go even faster, or do you think its heart would just explode?
The movie would be done in 30 seconds.
Because its heart would explode?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yeah. Okay.
Cocaine shark. Another drug-fueled animal gets in its own movie.
Oh, is that based off a true story as well?
Cocaine shark is scheduled to arrive in theaters, fans and all, in July.
Okay.
Cocaine Shark focused on a mafia drug lord's production of a shark derived. Sorry, that's a sushi, y'all. Focus on a mafia drug lord's production of a shark derived stimulant before an explosion and a leak of a laboratory puts an army of mutant bloodthirsty sharks on the loose.
I'm so confused from what you just said. That made zero sense.
It's something about drugs and sharks.
So it's not based on a true story.
No.
Cocaine Bear was based on a true story.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it was fake.
Yeah, no, what happened for that, and I don't quote me on this, I haven't watched the movie and I haven't looked into it too far. I'm pretty sure what happened was there was one of Pablo Escobar's or some sort of cocaine cartel, one of their planes crashed into the forest and it was filled with cocaine, like this plane was. And then the bear found it and started eating all the cocaine. Apparently in real life, the thing only was only alive for like 30 minutes before it like had a heart attack and died. But for those 30 minutes, it was probably the most dangerous specimen on this entire planet.
Oh yeah. All right. So it actually is somewhat based on a true story.
Okay, so it was the same sort of deal where like there was a
word comes after social media users joked last month that 3.5 tons of cocaine was found floating in the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
So they're basing off the fact that the shark ate cocaine.
Do you think if you like dumped like 1,000 pounds of cocaine into like a lake, all the fish in there would just start going wild?
I wonder.
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah. I guess we're going to Lake Louise, baby.
All right. I gotta find a guy. All right.
Last one.
I got a world record.
All right.
South Carolina man breaks.
All right, y'all. For some reason, when I'm going through editing this, their microphones cut out, so you didn't see the last little part. But yeah, feel free to subscribe on our YouTube and follow our socials at Hicks from the Sticks. And yeah, have a good day.